Okay, I am changing up the angle a little bit here. Show you a little bit of the more unkempt side of my life for reasons of the content of this video is actually kind of appropriate because it's kind of going to be an apology video. I'm also wearing my Transformers t-shirt, which really wasn't intended to be in line with the video, but it is applicable because it signifies the transformation that I'm having to go through in some of my thought process. But before we get into the heady drama of the week, which is webcams, I do have to, quick shout out Cheerleader of the week, Benzone50 this week. Whenever I think of Ben, I just think, creativity. He is creativity. Go to his channel, Benzone50, and just take a look. You're never going to see a more raw and visceral line into a guy's sense of creativity. Not always the most polished gems of work, but they definitely are always the most creative pieces of work. Ben has been integral for in regards to Crumbination and webcams. He's been great to collaborate with. On Crumbination, I asked him a little while ago to help moderate, and he's he has done so brilliantly and perfectly, and I have a huge sense of gratitude towards him for that. Additionally, you've seen him in webcams, but above and beyond that, he has written so many of them, and we've gotten a handful of them produced, and there's even more. If you could see the stack of scripts that I have to rewrite, and I actually have to say this to you, Ben. It's not that I'm ignoring you completely when it comes to your scripts. I mean, obviously, I hope you appreciate that. I am getting to them. The thing of it is, the rewriting process turned out to be a little bit more complicated than I had ever anticipated. I mean, I literally start from the top, work my way to the bottom, rewrite the entire script, and incorporate your words into it. Sometimes it's very simple to do. Sometimes it's more complicated, but I do hope you appreciate the fact that it does have to go through this machine, as it were, before it comes out ready for production. But yeah, he's been Benzone50, Cheerleader of the week. He's just been fantastic to work with, and probably can't talk about him enough. But I have to stop talking about him because we got to move on. There's been huge developments, huge for me. It was a huge shakeup for me with webcams. And basically there's the long version of the story and the short version of the story. I'm going to tell you the long version first and wrap it up with the short version. Essentially, I've been talking about a lot. We were going to go back and forth between, these generic episodes that anybody can jump in and throw their hat and submit footage for, and then more story-oriented episodes. And I was getting really invested in writing like the first 4 episodes of these story-driven shows, and I was putting. I've kind of been gathering notes from everything I've been through for the past several months, and I've been putting that into these stories. So I mean, they've been very, very important to me and very meaningful to me, and it was something that I very, very, very much wanted to do. So going back to the generic episodes to explain the long version of this story, I'm not going to name names until later, but for this particular person, I'm not going to name names, but I think most of you probably have a good idea who he is. There was a complaint, basically with generic scripts, I just post them, and whoever's interested sends me footage. Now, what I discovered was that if I name names, I say, okay, well, I make some suggestions. I think this person, that person, and you would be good for this part, and so on and so forth. Well, I got a complaint from someone, and I know it's joking, but it's so irritating when you see this. Like, well, why didn't you name my name? Why aren't you saying me? Well, I don't, who cares? If you're interested in doing the part, send me the footage. So anyways, for the next generic script that I posted, I named his name. I said, okay, I think you'd be good for this part. Send me the footage. Since you need me to actually say it, here it is. Send me your footage. And he sent me the footage, and we went back and forth a few times, working on it, and this is probably one of the biggest crises with webcams. When someone has the enthusiasm, has the talent to do the show, and then they don't have the technology to follow through with it. And I try to work with them as much as I can within the confines that we have, but ultimately I have a set of standards that I want each episode to reach. And, I say it right when I post the script and under technical notes, if you do not have a decent quality webcam and audio, don't submit footage. This is not for you. And generally I don't know what you have until you send it to me. So the auditioner has to be the first element of the screening process. Anyway, I go back and forth a little bit with him because he sent me, his performance was really good, but the quality of footage was abysmal, to put it gently. And ultimately, we were getting close to the deadline, my Friday deadline, and I either had to work with what I have or pull someone else in last minute, which is something that happens frequently, believe it or not. And again, another shout out to Ben. Anytime that usually happens, I usually just throw it to him. And if he doesn't do it himself, which I don't know if he's done, but he's usually able to say, this person, that person, and he's usually able to bring someone in from the outside to do that part. So I was getting down to the line on this bit of footage, and I just ultimately I had to make the difficult decision. And when I just focus on the fact that I want the episode to be the highest quality possible, this way everybody shines. I say I just can't use you right now. That's the end of it. When I posted the script for episode 12, which we're actually not doing anymore, he left a very critical comment on it, and I can't really blame someone for throwing up some criticism, but it just didn't seem fair to me, and it kind of just stung a little. Then I realized who was saying it, and it didn't really bother me much. But there was, to get the timeline and the whole story here, there was that. There was the rejection from webcams, which was unfortunate, but the quality just wasn't there. I can't use it. And when I finish explaining that, and I'm as diplomatic as possible when I have to let someone down like that, and I try to be as generous as possible. But I mean, ultimately, it's bad news. He ends up writing back this long, arduous letter that's just, it gets really, and then at the end he just lambasts webcams, mentioning the 12th episode, saying that the concept is dead and it's over, and just, really just mean, basically. And that's what was sitting on me in the peripheral. Again, I say I know who it's coming from, so whatever, I don't really care. But it was sitting there peripherally, and then what I was really dealing with was the fact that the stories that I wanted to do, while they were very important and mean a world to me to tell, what I ultimately had to realize was that I have to wear two different hats, and that was the long version, and I'll get to why I have to tell the long version of that story. What brought me around to this realization was I'd written two scripts. I had written episode 12 and episode 14, and I'd given 14. Sam had already read 12. I gave 14 to Sam, and she didn't like it. It didn't work for her, and I'm trying to grill her and find out, what wasn't working, blah blah blah. Well, why did not? That criticism was the worst kind of criticism I could ever get, from Sam not liking something I had written. Ultimately, I realized I have to wear a couple of different hats. I have to wear my creative hats, which are, the director, writer, editor hats, and those are the hats that, are driven by my passion, and that's what drove those scripts. But I also have to wear my producer's hat, and what I ultimately realized by way of Sam's criticism, Sam's reaction to that script, was that these stories just were not right for webcams. And I would post them, and while there would be people who appreciate it, ultimately they weren't going to play well. And it wasn't fair to the series or the audience or myself or the people who were involved with the series to use webcams as a venue to tell the stories that I wanted to tell. And at the end, I was like, holy fuck, that guy, he was right. Why was he right? I don't really believe, that was a long version. That was the kick in the pants for me. That's all the time I have, guys. Stay tuned, stay creative.